I'm probably being a bit ambitious given the strength of the wind up here, but let's have a go anyway. Oh, it's nice though, fresh, sunshine on my coupon, up the hill. I haven't been up here for 2 weeks, which is bad because my goal is to get up twice a week. Right, so this is going to be rambly. I'm not quite sure what's going to come out, but this is my favourite place to think, and so I feel that it's a good place to record these kinds of videos. I'm going to talk a bit about my history with Tolstoy and then go on to discuss the book I've just bought, which I've just opened on my desk and haven't really gone through yet. First impressions though are OMG, if that's a first impression. It's a thing of absolute delight. My first experience with Anna Karenina was my first experience with Tolstoy. When I'd gone to St Andrews University at the age of 21, and it was one of the first books that we read during my degree in language and literature, Russian language and literature, obviously. And I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't ready for literature then. Up until that point, fantasy was my genre, with a bit of sci-fi, and that was really all I read. So, diving into Anna Karenina, it was a struggle, as was literary analysis. I'd never done that before, other than Stephen King's The Stand, which I did for my higher English. So it was all new, and I remember sitting in my wee room in first year in Garnett House, halls of residence, and thinking, oh, this is a struggle. And it was. I was reading the Constance Garnett translation in a used copy that I'd bought second hand, and I mean, Garnett's translations are legendary. She's one of the most prolific Victorian translators of Russian literature, and I believe Tolstoy actually approved her translations personally. So the world should be grateful to Garnett for bringing these Russian texts to an English-speaking audience. However, it's not the easiest of language to read, so for a newbie such as I was, it added another layer of difficulty. And I did get through the text. I remember the essay I had to write, which was entitled "Don't Steal Rolls, Levin to Oblonsky. How true is it that this is the real meaning of Anna Karenina?" And I scored, was it 55 maybe, or 58, which is a pass. The professor's comments were along the lines of, "You didn't answer the question," because I tended not to do that for most of my degree. "Instead, you wandered off and explained the plot. However, you did show a good knowledge of the text." Something like that. So that was me with Anna Karenina. We didn't read any more, I didn't read any more Tolstoy until I got into my final year. And because I was doing single Russian, not as a dual degree, I had to take every class there was, including one which was a dissertation, and I chose to write a dissertation in Russian comparing War and Peace, the novel, with War and Peace, the movie, the 1967/68 movie by Sergei Bondarchuk. So by then I had it was my 5 years of study at St Andrews, so I was much more used to studying literature, and my language of course was much better as well. And my memories of that book are of staying behind over Easter, and rather than going anywhere at Easter break, I stayed on and spent 3 weeks or so working my bollocks off to get that dissertation out by the deadline, which I did, and I think I got 12 or 60, it's the same thing, depending on which marking regimen the professor used. So that was my War and Peace, and again I used the Garnett translation. It wasn't Garnett at all, it was Maud, which I'm just about to show you. And I used copy, which is now one of my treasured possessions. I just looked through it this morning actually, and I saw a lot of my old notes, and I wrote in this morning's diary entry actually that it was interesting to read my 26-year-old self, would it have been, communicating with my 54-year-old self through my annotations and notes. So War and Peace was dearer to me than Anna Karenina. I had tried to read Anna Karenina again, I think maybe 4 years ago, when I chose it as my birthday month book, and I ended up DNFing it, which did not finish. It must have been about the scene where is it Kitty? I'm trying to remember the characters' names now. Yeah, Kitty was abroad, and yeah, it was just like I think that was the Pavir and Volokonsky translation, but I can't remember. What I do remember though is that was the time when I became aware of the differences in translations and just how many there were available. There's so many, and now there's another one, which is why I'm making this video. So DNF'd it, and then read War and Peace in 2024 as a slow read with Simon Haisell, where we read one chapter a day through the year, and it works out really well because there are, I think it's 360 chapters, so if you read a chapter a day it gets you through the book in a year, and the chapters are super short. So that was an incredible experience, and that was when I really started to get a feel for what Tolstoy was all about and to love his writing. That was the Anthony Briggs translation I read, which is the Penguin Classics Deluxe edition. It's a beautiful book. So along with Simon's regular essays that gave information about the chapter that we just read, you know, it was such a rewarding experience. And so this year I'm doing it again. This year, however, I'm reading the Russian, which I did kind of do at uni, but not cover to cover. You know, I read large chunks for my dissertation, but I didn't, not cover to cover. So this time I am doing that. My Russian is now rusty as I really want to work at getting it back again to a usable level. So I'm reading a translation, then I'm reading the Russian. So that's where I am with War and Peace. And the film, of course, is now available to watch on YouTube, on Most Films channel. It's been restored, remastered, and it's just absolutely delightful. What an incredible, incredible film. 4 parts. It's like 7 hours, I think, the run time, between 7 and 8 maybe. And it's absolutely epic in scope. It won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film when it was released, and rightly so. The scale of it, just for its time, the aerial shots, the battle scenes, the number of extras, and Ludmila Savalyova as Natasha Rostova. Oh, beautiful. So, yeah, just one more quick wee thing. I've started watching War and Peace, the Andrew Davies adaptation from 2015/16. I just finished the 3rd episode last night, where Andrei has the dance with Natasha And then Pierre implores Andrei to propose to Natasha, and I went to bed floating on a cloud, thinking, oh, Tolstoy, how I love thee. So, what's up with this book of Anna Karenina? That's a long preamble, isn't it? I enjoy comparing translations, given that I worked as a translator for years. I've got the background from uni. I've read these books before. I'm getting to know them really well. I like to compare the translations for fun and to put out on YouTube. So when I heard there was a new translation out of Anna Karenina, I was like, yeah, dancer, I need to get that. It turns out the only way to get it was through the Folio Society. They put out this book. I got the email Monday or Tuesday to say that this book was coming out. It was limited to 500 copies, signed by the translators, Nicholas Pasternak Slater and his wife Maya, and by the artist who's done the artwork inside the book, Sally Dunn. So it was expensive and we can't afford it and we're struggling right now, and I was like, there's just no way. And then the justification cycle started, and what came to me was that I just reached 20 years of sobriety in October last year, and I hadn't marked the occasion with anything, and I couldn't think of anything better than to get this book. And then I justified it also by saying that I'd be able to make a translation comparison with it, and through YouTube ad revenue it would eventually pay for itself. All these kinds of justifications, you know. But the truth is, I just wanted it. I wanted the translation to compare. I wanted the book as an item. I wanted to mark my sobriety anniversary with something meaningful. And so that's what we did, and we're going to have to find a way to make it work. Because the book is now sitting on my desk at the house. And what a delightful, gorgeous book it is. From the quick glance I've had through it, I'm feeling excited to get back home and look through it properly. When will I read it? I don't know. Because War and Peace is using up my Tolstoy attention right now, and I'm not sure I want to mix myself up by reading Anna Karenina at the same time. However, having said that, I do want to make some content about it and have it start paying for itself if I can do that. So that's what's in my head right now. I actually commented on someone's post yesterday on Substack who said something along the lines of performative reading being bad and Goodreads goals as being bad. You know, people have opinions on these things. But I replied to say that the way I'm feeling right now, if I read only Tolstoy this year and henceforth, that's probably enough. I mean, it's not, obviously. That's just how I felt after watching that episode last night. And as I sat this morning reading my daily chapter, where Prince Nikolai Bolkonsky's at table with the son Andrei and Tamaria and Lisa and the architect, and I thought, you know, this book is part of me now. And I think, given my love of Anna Karenina, as it's beginning to burgeon as well, that's another thing I didn't mention, was the documentary I've been watching about Anna. It's called The Secrets of Anna Karenina, in Russian Tainly Anna Karenina. I think it's something like Intriguing Secrets in English. I'll put a link down below. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a Russian documentary, and I'm learning so much from it, and I'm really getting to know the novel, the text, and to love it, you know. And what I didn't say also is that I read it last year with Henry Elliott, who is in fact still running a slow read. He's publishing his thoughts along with the schedule of when it was originally published in the Russian Messenger Journal in 1877, 67? I should have these numbers in my head, shouldn't I? So it was published in that journal, and he's reading it in sections as they were originally published, month to month. And I think the last one's next month, but I couldn't wait, so at the end of the year I just read the rest of it. And that's been rewarding as well, going through it with Henry. So I guess one day I'll do my own. I don't think I could do War and Peace because Simon Haisell's kind of the OG of slow reads on Substack, and I think he's now in his 4th year, possibly even 5th, of running this read along, so that's his thing. Anna Karenina though, yeah, maybe. Anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to turn around and head back into the wind and go home, make a cup of coffee and flick through the book some more. So thanks for watching. Speak to you again soon. Bye.